would be able to generate its own Akasha Merkaba, and in that case, it would literally shift into full alignment with a different time cycle, which would be the inner time cycles. This is a path of evolution that would be a leap. All right? The planet's not going to do that this time because there's not enough time in this stellar activation cycle for it to reverse mutate its radio body that much. There's so much damage here that it can get part of itself through and in alignment. And the part of Earth that can go under this type of Merkaba and can hold these frequencies will be stabilized and balanced by literally linking with the inner Earth templates that are stabilized. There will be some of us that are able to heal fast enough, because speed is a thing here right now. Even though time is not a reality, when you're in a body that's in a set of flashline sequences that are a time cycle, it is very real while you're in there, and your body is still in there. And to get yourself out requires certain things to happen. Some of us won't be able to get it activated fast enough where we could actually go through in the next 10-year period into inner Earth. But some of us will. It all depends on what you came in with, really. We could all do the same exact thing from now until 2012, when the gates begin to fully open, and have completely different results, because it depends on the karmic pattern, the karmic miasmic pattern. That is, to what degree has this damage been done, and how much of it is done in other life cycles that are going on right now that's coming up into your life cycle right now. When we go on the path of ascension, which is the path to get our Stargate capacity back, it's kind of interesting. There's ways of evolution. People say, oh, well, I'm not going to take on the karma of my other selves. I'm just going to deal with my life this time. Well, good luck. You're going to be stuck in this life this time because your other selves aren't somebody different. If you want to get yourself together and clear yourself, that means them too. That means the karmic miasmic imprint that's coming up. That means the part of you that got stuck back in Atlantis and did some dumb stuff because you couldn't figure out what else to do because it was really dire straits back then, and did some things that got itself in worse trouble and got more reversals. That has to heal too. When we begin to work with radio body healing, when we begin to work with radio body activation, that implies healing, and then implies you're going backward and forward in time simultaneously, aligning your whole set of cells, all minimum of 1,728 of your cells that are coming out of your avatar imprint, back with their original divine blueprint. So all of you can pull yourselves together and have the ability to turn into light and move between time vectors. So what we're hoping to do is get to the point where we can build an Akasha Merkaba field. That would mean we would be able to heal progressively, step by step, these things. We would use the Manau codes to progressively heal these blockages, get rid of them, and they would make these pop. Now what, I keep asking guys, what are our atoms going to look like when we actually do this? If we work with these technologies, and we work with them enough where we've built a critical mass frequency, where we have put more frequency in on the Manau code correct pattern than on what's being held in the body in the reversal, okay, our cells are going to start not mutated. That means we're going to have our little neutron windows back. That means all these fields, these electromagnetic fields and neutral fields that are around different parts of the atom. I mean, here we have our, let's say we have the neutrons here, the natural neutron field here. We have the protons here. We have the electrons here. That's what we're seeing now. What's going to happen when these guys start to come back to life? What are we going to be looking at when scientists look at our atomic structure? Would we look different? At some point, we would. At some point, we would look like aliens as far as if they looked at the DNA. Because what's going to happen is progressively, those chopped up chromosomes that they're counting as full chromosomes right now, they're going to start putting themselves back together. There's also going to be an amazing phenomenon that starts to take place, which is they're going to find that some hydrogen atoms do have neutrons. And that's going to turn it into something else. With the neutrons that would be in the center of hydrogen atoms are actually in the next level up. They exist now. They exist as, where they go? Where's our neutrons? Down here. They exist as ionons, all right, in density 2. What's happened is their manifest counterpart down here has been shut off. But once these things are healed, these blockages are healed, this will begin to regenerate what was supposed to be here. So we will get changes happening in the hydrogen atom. This is going to have some interesting effects on a planetary level as well. because there's going to be effects at some point when the planet goes through its natural clearing cycle of a stellar activation cycle, where something that resembles what scientists call hydrogen burning begins to take place, and things are converted. The atmosphere begins to convert to other things. Now, hydrogen burning, if you think about stars, suns, all that flamey hot stuff that the Hubble space thing shows us pictures of, well, that gives you an idea of what hydrogen burning looks like. Now, if you have a certain type of Merkaba, you would not see the flames, you would not feel the heat. It would simply pass through you. However, if you didn't have enough frequency within the body, you would actually experience the process inside and outside. Now, inside hydrogen burning would mean vaporization. Poof, spontaneous combustion. You'd find yourself not manifest very quickly, and you'd find yourself scattered across a very large field of whatever density you did that in, as little units of consciousness trying to figure out where they go. Where's the rest of me? Right? There are things going to take place that are going to take place on the planet that are going to get really weird as we move toward 2012. There's going to be strange phenomena. There's going to be things, if you start to see things appearing and disappearing, like you could have swore you saw something over in the corner of your room. It's been there. It's always been there. What do you mean it's not there? It's not there. Where did it go? We're phased out temporarily. And you may find a week later it phases back in and it's there again. This is happening. You're not losing your mind if you start to see these things. Things are starting to begin to shift, and they're beginning to oscillate between, trying to find what they actually vibrate most closely with. And they'll sometimes pop out of this reality, go into one of the others, maybe parallel or maybe an adjacent one, and then they'll float back in here again. And you can have, jewelry loves to do this, jewelry with crystals on it. Crystals on the planet are bored. They are so bored that their consciousness, they're so bored that if you leave them sitting there for too long, they'll start to play games. And they also know that it's a good way to get you to pay attention. All right? I'm not getting any energy. This was, I'm getting no love energy here. It's like I might as well, be a cobweb. They don't care about me anymore. Okay. So you'll find your crystal disappears. It might start by just falling on the floor repeatedly. If you have it on a stand or something, they will jump. They will get sick of sitting there and not being paid attention to, and they will let you know they're alive by doing weird stuff. Jumping, or having the cat happen to carry it across the room and bury it in the backyard. Right? They will call out to have experiences happen. Now, since crystalline structure is the basic core of all things, when we go back to our chelons and our standing scalar wave grids that are built on little crystallized chelon units of thought, we're going to start finding other things jumping around and getting bored too. The getting bored is coming from feeling movement of the higher frequencies of energy coming into the planet. All right, we're all feeling these movements. Our cells are getting bored and they're getting jumpy because they don't know exactly which set of frequencies they co-resonate with yet. So we're going to find strange stuff, and it's going to be, some of it will be fun. I mean, literally, I've had this phenomena happen, and I knew what it was, so I just kind of chuckled to myself when it happened. But then a number of years later, I had a lady write to me. She says, "Am I losing my mind? Because I'm going to explain to you something that's been happening to me. Happened when I was a kid, and then it went away, and I felt good. But now it's come back again, and I'm really scared that I'm crazy. And should I go to the doctor and get put on drugs because I think I'm losing my mind?" She described to me a phenomena of cloud castles, of seeing cities in the clouds manifesting. Literally, she'd look at, not all the time, and not looking for them, but she would have them pop into her awareness spontaneously, where she'd be driving or something in the country, and all of a sudden that cloud formation over there, it turned into a city that was sitting on a continent that was sitting with water around it, floating in the sky here. I've seen these things happen. We're beginning to pick up the matter level densities from Tara. We're getting bleed-throughs right now. This is just some of it. As we work with radio body, we're going to get more of it. So be prepared for it and realize this is part of what it means. Eventually, we would be able to, as masters, once we get ourselves healed and get our consciousness back in body, we would be able to choose which space we wanted to go into. We would be able to go, okay, I see, yeah, all right, that's, what's it called up there? Yeah, okay, that cloud formation over there, that'll take me to this place, the corner of whatever on Terra, right? I think I'll go that way. And there's a process that your DNA would go through. The hydrogen bonds would activate. The neutrons that are in the center of all of the atoms would begin to open their little windows and let the mana through. This would create a chemical called celestylene in the DNA. Celestylene is a transient element that it doesn't last very long when it comes here, but it releases, it sets a chemical reaction into the body that allows for natural internal fission and fusion of the protons and electrons. The electrons actually turn into protons and pull into the nucleus. Now, if you do that under normal circumstances that we call normal down here that aren't normal, you blow up. You just simply spontaneously combust because there aren't the natural frequency links of the Ki and the Chi and all the other things that go with the mana that are supposed to be there. But if you have the mana currents activated properly, you will have, when you go into transmutation, the celestylene will trigger. The windows and the neutrons will trigger opening. This will trigger the hydrogen bonds to produce celestylene in the middle of them. The celestylene will cause chain reactions, chemical reactions in the DNA that will create hormonal reactions all through the body. And through this process, you will literally have your electrons turn into protons. Everybody pulls into the nucleus to go home, and they go out through the neutron windows, literally turn into mana, and then remanifest. This is why getting some control over our thought patterns is going to be really, really useful, because the mana responds to our thought. How do you know where you're going to go? You're going to go where your consciousness is thinking. So if you're afraid when you go that you're going to blow up, you might make yourself blow up. This is why learning to be very selective in what you choose to put your attention on. When you begin to work with the mana frequencies, we will have time. They're going to train us, I think, through some of the other levels of the course of how to focus the right way. What ways would be the right way to focus if you're going to have this power back, and what ways would not be the right way, and will save you some trouble by telling you what lessons you really don't want to teach yourself, right, by using them wrong, by focusing in the wrong ways. So we're going to learn how to fix this stuff. And what's so nice is the technologies, what we need to do to get this stuff fixed is so easy compared to what it takes to figure out what went wrong in the first place, where it came from, and to make diagrams to show people about it. It's much, much easier to simply use the codes. What we're going to do this evening, how are we doing on time? Because I want to make sure we have time for the exercises. 10:09. We have an hour. An hour and a bit. Okay, good. Okay. All righty. I think, yeah, this is enough. So you will have this, and this one I think will help you a lot. Like when you have this to refer back to, you'll have questions, especially if you're going to try to teach this stuff. There's so many of these little currents that are wrapped around in there. It will be very difficult for you to, it is for me anyway, maybe somebody else it would be easier for, but to remember who's on first. You know, now we had protons, electrons, you know, who is in between what? You know, this is the diagram that shows you who's in between what, and I'll go through these. Okay, we have, let's see, I will start here with the number 1 here. These numbers correspond to the ray numbers. Okay, so number 1 would be this band here. That would be the Chi. Okay, the D1 protons, right? Now 2, let's find 2. 2 is over here. Okay, this would be the Ki, the D2 electrons, would be this band here. Okay, let's find the 3. The 3 is up here. That would be the ray, the D3 neutrons. Okay, now 4 is over here. That's the prana. This is where the prana comes in, and it comes in as the form of myons. All right. 5 is here. Actually, the prana. Did I say mana or prana? Yeah, okay, I did say prana. That's what I meant to say. Good. All right, then the 5 mana is here. And it comes in the form of dions. So here, you have a dion ring, okay? Now, dions are density 2 units, okay? They're electrons up there. They create different kinds of fields here. They create negative electrical fields here. So the things that you don't see, here you see, our scientists can see electrons, protons, and neutrons down here. But the stuff that you can't see, that's actually there, but it's in one of the higher densities, will create either electrical, magnetic, neutral, or electrical and magnetic fields, depending on, and they also vary at times. What was once a positive electrical field will become a negative. They move around, they change places, because there's interactions that take place between the myons and the dions and things. But this is the basic structure. These are the things you'll see manifest, these bigger dots here. That's what our scientist is looking at. But if you want to know in between what flows what, this is the chart. So you have 4 here, the prana, you have 5 here, the mana, You have 6 is here, going closer up to the nucleus again. Okay, this is the Treya D6 ionon field. The D7 is right here, so in between here, and this is the Iran field. D8 is here. The Maya is the Ectron field. D9, here's where we get into the void space. Okay, this takes us into the D9 is the Yana, which is one of the Manel currents. It's the Rayon current, and the Ma'a is the D12 Rion current. So this is going from the nucleus of your cells outward to the space between your cells. All right, so when we're working with the Mana codes, we're going to be creating frequency. We're going to be bringing in new life force energy, or actually we're going to be bringing a life force energy that does live there. Right now it's there, but it can't flow through here. We're going to be bringing it through to its natural connection points, to the natural neutron window in here, and that's going to start the circulation system back. So we're going to teach our cells how to breathe again. We're going to teach them how to breathe in and breathe out, the inhale and the exhale of source, which is breathing in and out, the primal currents of frequency, the primal consciousness. This is going to create, now if we did it all at once, we'd just blow ourselves up, because it'd be too much frequency, too fast. The cellular structure has to have time to adjust to these frequencies coming in. And that's why our higher identities, literally our avatar level of self, will regulate this for us. It's part of our consciousness that's up there, expanded into the field. It's a D12 level of consciousness. It's not going to allow too much of these forces to come in at once so you don't damage yourself, because the idea is to fix yourself, not to damage yourself. Right? But we're going to be having changes happening in our atomic structure. These changes will also be held within the elemental things in our bodies, not just the units or the singular atoms, but atoms grouped to form molecules. Molecules are all different kinds of molecules in our bodies. We have water molecules, and we have amino acids. All sorts of things are making our bodies what they are. Now, water molecules have they're a particular state. They're in a liquid form. They hold memory because they interact directly. Water molecules interact directly with the Meson field, which is the pre-sound field, the Meson units and anything created from them, which means water works with the Ire frequencies. Right now, our water molecules are holding reversals in our body. The waters are literally killing us. The body fluids are literally killing us. This is why we get cancers and things, because after a while, the reversals build up to the point where they begin to go into the cells around them, and the water molecules start to try to steal the life force away from the cells themselves, because they're mutated and they can feel their lack of energy. So they will try to draw energy in when they should be actually circulating energy. They actually start to hold energy and pull it in and try to take it away from the body. So we'll begin to heal the elements in our body as well. The waters in our body will begin to become more healthy for our bodies. We will begin to slowly bring back the natural integrity of what fluids in our body are supposed to be like. It will affect the fluids. It will affect the hormones, the chemicals, the DNA. It's not going to all happen at once, or we probably get I can just see, boom, we all turn into what we're supposed to be, and we all get corralled by the government because there's this new species of alien on the planet. We don't know where they came from. Right? If it all happened too fast, that's what it would look like. Because when we start to heal, after a while, when those chromosomes start to get enough critical mass where they can turn back on and stay on, where the DNA strands can activate naturally and stay on. Because right now what we do is temporary, nanosecond bursts of activation. That's all anybody can really hold on the planet right now, the higher strand activations. But that's plenty. That's enough to bring, nice bursts of these higher frequencies through. But at some point, when these things all click on and we hit critical mass and our bodies are cleared and healed and we can hold them, we're going to be a lot taller. We're going to start to grow from these things. You may find it first being your head. One of the first places that changes take place. One of the first places. No. If you have weird sensations, there's several sensations. One is sounding like your skull is cracking. All of a sudden, you're not doing anything. All of a sudden, you might hear, and you know it came from inside your head, and you know it was your skull bone. And you kind of. Huh? Oh, it's still there. Okay. There's weird things that start to happen. They're not all at once, and they're not heavily dramatic, but they can scare you, or you might go running to the hospital to try to find out if there's anything wrong with you. And if you think there is, it's best to get it checked out to make sure in the first place. We never tell anybody don't go for medical treatment or anything, but we say be aware that some of the things you may be going through, they're not going to know what to do with either. One of the first things that I had was I had a little chip here from when I was a child, a little chip over the eye because I got hit with a rock playing rock baseball. And, where you hit hit rocks with sticks, right, to play baseball. And I got hit there as a little tiny chip. When I started to do DNA activations, this was even before we started playing with VECA codes, there was a time when I heard an internal crunch. It was just like imagine an earthquake. You could just hear the happening. No pain, but it split from here all the way up to here. It split up to the top of my head. And you can see the ridge sometimes. Certain photos you can see it, and it looks like a vein, but it isn't. It's a ridge. It's like a hole. Now, most people won't get that dramatic of a thing, but my head made room for my brain is basically what happened, because you start to get more fields being generated in the brain when you have DNA activations, when your cells are changing, and your bones and things will try to accommodate them. They will start to move things around. You may have teeth deciding that they're not going to stick around. Teeth breaking is one of the classic signs of DNA activation, which means that you're also beginning the processes of bringing these life force currents back into the body. I hope so, because pretty soon I'm going to be a souparian if not. I'm serious. I went through a period of 2 years where I had healthy teeth all of my life. I went through a period of 2 years, the last two actually, where all of these literally crumbled within like 6 months. I lost almost all of these here, and I have a couple left on the bottom, but all the top ones are gone, and I lost these too. And think, well, I could go get them fixed, but can you take that stuff that they make those false ones out of through gates? So it's like I haven't gone for the cosmetic thing yet, because it might not be worth it, because I don't know if you can take it through anyway. I'm going to inner earth, excuse me, and I'm not going to put anything on me or in me that might get left at the door. Because why bother? Why waste your money? If it were front ones, I'd probably say, well, for the meantime, I will do something about that. Now, I really hope that part of what we do have happen is once we get to a certain level, we may just go through a new, teething cycle, which I wouldn't doubt. Instead of chewing on our little rings like the babies do because it hurts when they're coming through. I don't know what the teeth do. I don't know how far and how fast we're going to be making the shift back to our natural pattern. If we went all the way back really fast, we'd become breatharians again, which means we'd not only be losing teeth, we'd be losing a whole lot of other stuff that lives inside our bodies right now, like stomachs and intestines and all sorts of things. Where they're going to go, they're just going to demanifest, I don't know. So what we're moving toward, as far as what are we going to look like through this process, what is it going to do to our biology? I know it's going to go slower. It's not going to bang zoom. You wake up in the morning, you don't even know who you are. You look at yourself and say, oh my God, I'm 12 feet tall. I have 6 fingers. I have 6 toes on each foot. I have no teeth because I don't eat. And I have no stomach inside of me. That would be a little scary. I think it'd be a riot. You'd feel like you woke up in somebody else's body. Who is this? It's you. No, it isn't. I wonder if what our hair will do. Will it start growing back? Will it totally fall out? There's these questions are worth asking, because as we move into these things, we are going to begin physical changes, but they're not all going to be dramatic and all at once to the point where we find ourselves looking like aliens to ourselves when we look in the mirror. But we will have some strange things. Another thing that can be scary is what's called, I call it the landmine syndrome. It sounds like landmines going off in your brain when new neural networks are beginning to open in response to the chemical activations, in response to the DNA activations, where it literally sounds like, and you could spot exactly, you could feel it. It didn't really hurt. It just went in your brain. You can feel it. It's like little landmines going off. These are some of the other things you may begin to feel. You may get bone pain. The bones very much respond. They're kind of going, oh, no, not higher frequency, ow, because the bones are made of substances that are solids here that are based on 5 platonic solids when they should be based on 12. This is why things are breaking. This is why teeth are breaking, because they're made out of elements that don't have their full components to them. So when the natural frequencies come through, they can't hold it, so they demanifest themselves. Our teeth are demanifesting themselves. There are parts of our bodies that hopefully will beat them to the punch, like we'll get them healed before they demanifest themselves. These are some of the things that as we move into this, now these are going to happen to us with or without man-out codes, with or without using the technologies. The advantage of using the technologies is we are consciously participating with this process. We're resetting the natural mathematical programs. Like if I knew how to reset the man-out programs in my teeth 2 years ago, I might still have more left, they would have stuck around because I could have progressively helped them to reset the structure and at least parts, at least my own body I could have worked with to get it to the point where things didn't fall out and demanifest themselves because they couldn't hold the frequency anymore. So we are actually preparing ourselves to be able to hold more frequency. We're now getting into preparing our elemental kingdom, the elements that live inside of us. Not just our minds. We've worked on preparing our minds for it. We've worked on our spirits for a very, very long time, and if with certain types of teachings that are out there, you can work on your spirits from now until eternity, and they'll never teach you how to get them into your body because they don't want you to get them into your body. We're going to heal the shadow part of ourselves, the part of ourselves that's in reversal. Where does your shadow live? Right here. In every atom that you have here, the shadow lives. It should be like a horror movie, right? The shadow lives. If we think of our auric fields, you know those bubbles of energy around us, right? And we think about our radial body, the little cap that's around, the capsule that's around those bodies, and the little ones that go down to our cells. We can visualize the shadow as if we have one self here, our natural self, how we're supposed to be. You have your eggs, your capsules, so your Hoover body you're supposed to walk around in, and it has a Merkaba axis that, say, is vertical, like it's supposed to be, right? Then you have another part. It's as if that egg of your Hoover bodies spawned its antithesis, and it has a part of itself that's smaller right now, but the shadow can actually get bigger and swallow the other. But it's a part that literally pulled off, as if you have one egg here, but now you have this other egg that's attached to your body, but it's running at a different angle, has a different rotation, its mathematics are running differently, and it's sucking energy off your natural energy bubble. It has a different Merkaba axis. It has an axis that's tilted to try to pull you into phantom, because that's the alignment that it has. Right now, Earth's Merkaba, this is where it gets tricky, Earth's Merkaba is tilted. This is why we have the weird little, ever since the Atlantean pole shift, 9058 BC, there was a little shift, a small shift then. There were two larger shifts before that were done by the fallen angelics to purposely pull the planet in to phantom, into the phantom matrix black hole system by aligning its frequencies and its Merkaba axis with the one that goes with phantom matrix. Right now, we are, if we did a 45-degree shift in angular rotational particle spin, normally, under normal conditions, that would take us to inner Earth. It would take us to inner Earth or to Terra if we wanted to go up vertically through the halls of Amenti. But right now, because Earth is not in its natural alignment, it's actually back 22.5 degrees. If you did 45 degrees, it's going to take you into alignment with, not with inner Earth, with phantom. So there are teachings that are being taught. We're being taught to do a 45-degree shift without being taught how to shift back first to the natural alignment. When we do salutations, the salutation exercise, it's been out now for a while. Some of you may not know it, but we will go through it either tomorrow morning. We're going to do salutation on the beach after the ordinations. The salutation exercise is very important because what it does is it activates your tribal shield and it activates your Maharic shield, and it brings these frequencies temporarily into the body. And then it generates enough of these frequencies, the natural frequencies in the body. Then you use your body's momentum to begin to set your Merkaba into its right spin rate. Once you get it into its right spin rate, its axis will align naturally. And from there, you can make a 45-degree shift to get to inner Earth. So we're going to learn a lot of tricks of the trade as we move forth toward an outcome. That outcome will be different for each of us. Some of us will be, there's a song that, I don't remember that song, Meet on the Edge, or the Ledge? Meet on the Ledge. It was, who does that song? Fairport Convention. Okay, there was this like band that I'd never heard of before that had a tape of Fairport Convention. And this had this very moving chorus. It said, meet on the ledge we're gonna meet on the ledge. And it was all about, get what?
Meet all my friends.
Yeah. When the time has come, I'm gonna meet all my friends. We may have one of these scenarios where we will meet on the ledge of the stargates, the ledge of the inner earth gates when they're ready to open. Some of us will go, some of us won't go, but there will be some who do. Even if only one got through, that would be an accomplishment compared to coming from the level of amnesia that people are coming from here, being able to make the fixes in their bodies and consciousness that need to be made to be able to do it. But this is the big gold ring. You know how they used to have grab the gold ring when you were on the carousel going by? That was like, the prize. Well, the big prize in this game is actually getting yourself together enough where you can walk your body through a gate and getting your consciousness and your attitude and all sorts of other things that go with your body in line enough where you'd be invited to go into a place where the Christos civilization is being lived. Because right now, we have to not only get our bodies to where they can go through biologically, but we have to evolve our minds and our attitudes to where we would not be a threat if we were invited in to a Christos society, a society built on love, not on shadows, built on love, not on egos. So there are other things that we're going to learn. Tomorrow, I think we'll do it tomorrow. Well, maybe I'll do it tonight. I think I'll go into this tonight. I'll do this tonight. There is part of these courses, part of the Dance 4 programs, are going to get into, where's that one? The 12 elements, 12 attitudes of mastery. Okay. We are going to be working with the body. We're going to be working with the emotions. The emotions are connected to the shadow. The shadow's been running our emotions around for a very long time. But we're also going to be working with the mental body, the D3 mental body, and trying to help ourselves recognize attitudes. There are 12 attitudes of mastery. These are just the beginnings. But if we can start to think about what they mean, we need to fix not just our bodies. We need to fix our emotions, heal them, not just fix them, but we need to heal our emotions, heal our bodies, and we need to heal our minds. So if we get an invitation, because you will not get into inner earth without an invitation, and that's not because the inner earth races are being mean. It's because for their very own survival, the survival of their Christos civilization, they have had to, for many thousands of years, keep the gates closed. Because humans and other things that live here on Earth became so out of control that they would have decimated inner Earth civilization by now. And that wasn't going to be allowed to happen. Because inner Earth civilizations have held for us all this time the Christos model. So once we got through with our growing pains and possibly wouldn't destroy those civilizations, we could be invited back home and back in so we could reclaim. But we'd have a lot of knowledge to bring back with us too. Knowledge of the fall. While they held the knowledge of the not fall, we held the knowledge of the fall. And together, that's a lot of knowledge about learning how to help other races. There will be a program of invitation. We're going to be introducing that progressively in, yes, please. We're going to be introducing the program they told me that in Bermuda is the first introduction of what's called the contact course, where the IANI are willing to work with people. If the people are willing to work with them, you will need to use Dance for Life program, like to work with these codes that we're going to get, with the sound tones that we're going to be getting today, and the symbols that we're going to be given tomorrow. And tomorrow, I think the most valuable thing that's going to come out of tomorrow, we're going to have some fun because we're going to get up and do this stuff. You're not just going to have to listen to me talk at you all day. I really hate when I have to do that, but there was enough that I needed to get you through before we could get into the act of doing stuff where you knew what we were doing. But the most important thing I think you'll get out of tomorrow is the 12 actions of mastery, which is the basic 12-step program of what do I do with myself on a basic daily, weekly, monthly basis to keep with this program, to keep these activations to help myself. All right, so we're going to have that. It will show you how to use the basic techniques that you're learning here, how to put them in order. And it will also, it goes with these. These are the 12 attitudes of mastery. As we go through all of the courses, the first book of the Mahabharata, the 4 volumes of the Dance 4 programs, they each are going to have 12 different elements. We had 3 sets of 12 elements here. And we're going to get 5, there's 5 remaining on the 12 lessons of mastery. The 12 lessons of mastery were the first 12 things from Dance of Life. That's where we started. This is what you would be teaching someone if they came to you to find out about this stuff, what I talked about before, going from the forces into the structure into understanding your basic parts, that kind of thing. The 12 lessons. There are 7 of them that we covered. We're going to get the rest of them. The other 5 are going to be given tomorrow. Now, this is the attitude part, where we start to work with our attitude. And each time, we're going to deal with something that affects the physical, something that affects the emotional, and something that affects the mental. When we're working on level 2, let's say, when we do Dance for Love, we're going to be working with the physical, emotional, and mental levels of the soul body, your Density 2 body. So you always have the physical, emotional, and mental levels to bring into harmony with each other, to raise them to the next level. These are the beginnings of just some things to think about when it comes to attitudes. Attitudes, what we choose to look at the world, the filters we choose to look at the world through. Most of them right now are subconscious. We don't even know what filters we're looking at the world through. Most of us are looking at the world through a shadow, and we don't even know that that's happening. We just feel it. That's where we get the fear feelings and the worry feelings and the anger feelings where, and you also get like those bursts of things, like you may get days where you're just absolutely manic and you're, just wired, frequencies are working good that day. Then you'll get the absolute opposite and you go into depression. All of these things are the play between the energies of the light and the shadow within yourself. The shadow does not use any of these attitudes as filters. It uses fear and lack and feeling it has to take in order to survive because it is afraid of not surviving at the core of its being. Now this fear that the shadow carries that makes it literally become an energy vampire to whatever comes near it, including you, including anybody in your life. If your shadow attaches, that's when you get into those little power play games where you're actually trying to suck energy off people. And they might feel it and you might not realize you're doing it. But your field is doing it because your shadow's pulling. Now these attitudes are things that the mental body can do, to adopt, to choose, to look at and to think about and try to feel around what that might feel like to really look at life that way. These are filters that you can consciously choose instead of the ones that are culturally programmed in and the ones that are working subconsciously. It'll take a while for you to really integrate what they mean, but there's feelings that go with them, feelings that will heal pieces of the shadow body. And it will also get the mind to a space where it understands that certain reaction patterns, we have a choice in any situation. We can act or we can react. When we react, somebody else or something else is controlling our power. We are just giving a knee-jerk reaction back to whatever somebody else decided to create or something else decided to create. If we can learn to choose action and begin to choose our filters, realize that we have that choice in the first place, we can choose 12 attitudes of mastery. This is where it begins. The first choice is to choose love. Now, love is a really highly abused word on this planet. Love is usually the word that's applied to, can I steal your energy? I don't have enough of my own. And it may be innocently done. I'm lonely, I need you. Love usually means need here. And need very often means feed. If you look at it that way, it's pretty blunt, but it's really how love is being used. Love is need and need is feed. Feed is sucking energy off somebody else because you don't know how to bring it through your own self. We're taught that this is what love is on this planet. This is what love is on Nibiru. This is what love is on other places like Nibiru. Because they do not have the ability to directly bring in the Christos frequency. They are limited, and they know they are limited because they are making choices that they don't want to cooperate, they want to dominate. And because of that, they're making choices that they're going to be masters of the universe, they're going to take over, so no, they're not going to let themselves be connected to the eternal light rays, they're just going to steal it. It's a sickness of consciousness. If the Anunnaki people or any of the other people adopted these basic attitudes of mastery, none of us would be in this mess, right? Love is the first one. Love is the recognition of the truth of the all-oneness. That is the truth. Love is to recognize that the only truth that is we are all faces of the one. Everything is a face of the one. To make any other choice in a situation other than to act in a loving way that recognizes the oneness in the other person or the other being or the other thing is completely self-destructive. Any harm you would intend to bring upon another, you are harming yourself because there is only one self. If you can recognize the love, you begin to be able to choose action over reaction. Reaction is what happens when the victim-victimizer pattern runs rampant, where nobody even remembers who was the first victim or who was the first victimizer. You just get caught in these, I'll hurt you or I'll stop you from hurting me, and to do that, I'm going to have to hurt you. And we get into these little games where if we chose love in any moment, that doesn't mean let somebody walk on you. Not at all. You can choose to recognize when somebody else is so out of control that you can love them to bits right now, but they're not in the space where they can feel love for you right now, and that's okay. Let that be okay. If it's in your face, you need to love you. If you want them to love you and they're not acting loving, that's okay. You need to tell yourself, you need to let yourself say, well, I respect them and I love them, even though they're not behaving how I wish they were, even though they're not acting toward me the way I wish they would. And they're telling me that they will act the way I want, the way I would like to see them act, if I do this, 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 and this. But I don't want to do this, this, and this, and this. They're trying to barter with me. They're trying to take my power. If you see this dynamic happening in your relationships, you can choose love. And you can choose love either close up or at a distance. Some people are easier to love at a distance. You don't have to hate them to leave them. It doesn't mean you don't love them. It doesn't mean you don't care. It does mean I love and care about me too, and I'm not going to let you victimize me, because that's not healthy for either of us. So choosing love, there are many. We purposely didn't analyze the heck out of what these are supposed to mean. Just gave you a little tidbit to move with, and you'll have a copy of this in the chart pack tomorrow too. But these things will begin to help you feel around what these qualities, these are qualities you can choose to have, and tell your mental body that, okay, we might have used other filters to look at reality through before. These look like they work better. I think I would probably get better feelings out of these. If you look at your ideas, your mental body is setting the pattern for what your emotions are going to do. The higher frequencies actually set the pattern for the lower frequencies in the natural flow of frequency. So mental body, D3, it's supposed to set the frequencies for emotional body, D2. So what you think, you will feel, and your body will act on. Right now, we have an inversion in the amount of energy that's in our emotional bodies compared to what's in our mental bodies because of the inversions in our cells. We actually have an emotional body that has more frequency because it has part of the shadow imprint that's connected to the reversals in Phantom Matrix. There are people that are connected to our shadows that aren't us. One of the greatest places to see this is in bar rooms. If you go to clubs and you turn on your astral vision, your inner vision, you start looking around, you might want your hair might stand on end. I mean, the first few times you see what's going on in bar situations where people are drinking alcohol, which is feeding the shadow. Alcohol is not bad in all situations, but when you go over the moderation point, it begins to really bring up the shadow, which really, really allows other things floating around in the higher frequency fields that want to feed off you to connect directly to your body. So there's these reversals that are held in our bodies. They have their own attitudes, but they're not just us. This is what most people don't realize, that we have our shadow, but it's not just made of us. Our shadow is a part of us that was created by the grid mutations, and that part allows other things, a black hole window right into our bodies. And very often, the shadow isn't what's doing some of the negative stuff you might assume your shadow is doing. Some people are terrified of their shadow because they know when the shadow comes up, they kill people or something. People that are really out of control, there's a lot of people who commit violent crimes or do really horrid things, and they really are in conflict within themselves. But what's not recognized is sometimes it's not just their own inner conflict. Sometimes it's not just their own shadow, but their shadow is used as a doorway for something else to come through and express itself. That happens very, very often with violent crimes, particularly in people that don't usually tend to be violent. So there's a lot more to the shadow. The shadow needs our help. The shadow is just a part of us that has this reversal that leaves the door open for anything that wants to come in and try to take our energy or try to get into our bodies and harm us. So as we work with the codes that we're going to be working with in the tones, we are going to progressively bring the shadow back around so that doorway to, let's say, the doorway to the pits begins to close. But we can help the process by the attitudes we choose every day. The attitudes are, you can wake up in the morning and say, well, no matter what it looks like out there, no matter what I have to do today, I'm going to choose, let's say, I'll choose just 3 of them today, but to keep them in my mind that today, in all circumstances, I'm going to choose these 3 attitudes. Build them up in 3s, because it's too hard to remember all 12 unless you want to walk around with your page map. Remember, that's not, start with 1 if you have to. But start with, and you don't have to pick them in order either. You can feel out which ones you feel most drawn to, because that will tell you something about what the lessons you're trying to remember right now in yourself. Okay, when you get to grace, grace is a nice word. Grace is a nice space. Grace is a nice space to be. Grace is allowing the all-oneness to be what it is, regardless of whether it suits you. It's, yeah, that's a very charged statement. It's living perpetual forgiveness. In fact, you don't even need forgiveness. Forgiveness implies you passed a judgment that somebody is doing something wrong. So then you forgive them for it. That's a form of patronization, really. Okay? When you're forgiving, you're actually patronizing because you're already judged. All right? If you are in grace, in a state of grace, you can be aware that there are things you would not choose for yourself. And that you can look at them and say, this is not something that in my world that I particularly like, but I am going to allow that to be. And I am not going to let myself fall into the trap of making me right and you wrong, which is another version of victim-victimizer game. If you want to stay outside of the victim-victimizer game and learn how to begin to stand outside of it, no matter how bad whatever it is, and it may be awful, it may be terrible, you pass judgment on it, you have engaged the game. If you simply allow, say, I choose to enter a state of grace, which means you let the good, the bad, and the awful, and the wonderful all coexist side by side and move with and through each other, within you, around you, and you choose peace and grace and allow that, where you're not going to fight with that. You're not going to give it your energy. You're just going to allow it to be. You're respecting the other pieces of God that are here, regardless of how out of control they might seem, because some people are out of control. This is God experiencing out of controlness. All right? Now, you might not think that's a great idea, and it might not have been the original intention that that being had been created on. It doesn't mean you let them, run over your house and like steal your car and kill your family and those kind of things. I'm not talking about that, but a general place of grace, which means whenever possible, when you're not forced to, for survival reasons, for like literally having to be very practical, where I have to assess this situation and excuse me, I have to make a judgment call. Because there will be times when you need to make a judgment call in life as far as effective decision making goes. It's not saying don't assess things. It's saying learn the fine line. It's like a hair between assessing and judging. Assessing is trying to see the whole situation from an us perspective. What is needed, not just for me, but what is needed for the whole here? What is the Christos need here? And let me be a vessel for the Christos, which means it should serve you and you and the whole group as well as the self. When you go into judgment, there's a whole different story. You're not assessing to try to make a decision out of love that will benefit everyone. You're trying to boost your own ego by telling yourself, you're wrong, I'm right, I'm better than you are. All right? Critiquing is another way that this comes out. And there's some people that are masters of this. My mom was a master of this one. She's a Virgo, too. Scary. That's probably why I became a very soft Virgo, where I let everybody be just the way they wanted to be. And I thought that was fine and wonderful, and I loved them just the way they were, because she was the total polar opposite of that. I became the polar opposite of what she was in her Virgo imprint. Because she would look at people, and it would make her feel good to know she was smarter. This person's screwing up. I'm going to let that be known, because it made her feel good. There is a need, and it was vicious. There was a vicious need in this poor lady, and she's mellowed with age, fortunately. But she used to really feel personal joy at being able to look at a situation, go into a workplace especially. A lot of this is coming out through in her generation, the male-female in the workplace dramas, where females weren't treated equally, so you had to do triple, what a man would do to prove that you were intelligent so you might get a decent, shake at work. But there was a judgment factor that would come through, where this wasn't an assessment, okay, what's best for this whole situation for everyone. There was a glee that was involved with saying, I know I'm right, and I'm going to make sure everybody else finds out that you're wrong. And she would really go into a pattern, and it's a part of her that's hurting, and I know that. It's a part of her that needs healing. But she would go into a pattern. Forget love. Yeah, I love you, but, right? And on the but, you would get a string of everything, why you're not worthy of that love, what you're doing wrong, how you should be better, how you woulda, coulda, shoulda been, and why you should be because she thinks so. And when you approach people and you approach the world with this, most people, if the world could walk away, it will. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to take their power. You're trying to take somebody else's life and say, I'm your dictator. I'm going to be your taskmaster. You're supposed to live up to my standards. You don't need that game. Because when you get into that game, you'll find somebody else to play the role and mirror it back to you. You go back and forth, back and forth. So when we're in a state of grace, we allow the all-oneness to be. Whatever it is, we don't always have to agree with it, but let it be anyway. Don't pass judgment on it. If it's in your face and you have to make an assessment from a we space. We, the eternal one. Meaning we, everybody on the planet, every being that ever lived, you and me and whoever this person is that I have to make an assessment about how I'm going to interact with. Make it from the Christos we space. We are one. And try to serve that ideal instead of going into critiquing, instead of going into figuring out what's wrong with that person. I'll tell you what's wrong with you. It's like, why don't you point your finger at your own self and I'll worry about my own self. It will be very helpful to get out of the judgment issues. Whenever possible, choose to love instead of judge. Use assessment only when necessary. All right? When it comes to looking at things where you have to pass judgment calls. We pass judgment calls all the time on stuff we don't have to. Do you ever sit with like a friend and watch TV? You're watching these fake dramas, right, with actors playing parts. Oh, he should have said this. That person should have done this. Your judgment's coming out all over the place. And it's funny. Oh, no, I think they should have done that. And you just like get in like the soap opera people that really get into watching the soap operas. They're living this drama. They're living that energy through actors that are embodying the dramas for them. But they're still engaged. All their energy is going down this tube that's called the television back into the victim-victimizer drama. So this is a choice. Choose love. Choose grace. You can forgive. Now, there's a fine line between forgive and grace. Ultimately, forgiveness means you're already judged, all right? Which means you were out of grace to begin with. Because if you're in grace, you don't need to judge. You simply be and allow others to be as well. Down here, because it's like a battle zone half the time, we very often find ourselves stepping a bit out of grace in order to go at least into assessment so we can figure out what to do with ourselves so we don't get shot with the cosmic bullets that are always flying around here in the ethers. And I'm talking more about the emotional, mental, wacky energy stuff that gets going around, not physical bullets. But forgiveness is a step toward grace. If somebody's done something horrible to you, if you've lived through a horrible thing and there's a part of you that just feels so victimized, you feel devastated, you have to honor the fact that you have that part of you. It isn't going to go away. Your shadow's hurt in there somewhere. It's hurting. Recognize you have a shadow that you need to heal. Recognize, too, that in forgiveness, the first step toward grace, in forgiveness, you're saying, okay, I acknowledge a part of me is still judging you, and I should judge you because you did this horrible thing to me and I feel terrible, which means you're honoring your feelings, but I choose to forgive you. And you may need to leave at that point, like depending on the situation. I'm thinking of extreme situations, like say if you had a child and your child was murdered and you're looking at the child murderer in the courtroom. And just, if anything is going to lower you out of grace, where you're just going to want to go up there and balance the scores, that is usually something like that, brings that out in the most benign and sweet of people. They can find a bloodthirst for revenge coming up out of them, under the disguise of mourning. They're hurting so badly, but they actually feel that they would like to punish. They want to have, you are bad, you are wrong, and I want to make you pay for what you did. This is not where forgiveness comes from. You're going to keep in the drama, and what's scary is you'll bring more of it to you with a different face on it if you hold that energy in your own body. So if we choose grace, and if we can't choose grace yet in a situation, choose forgiveness first as a step toward grace. We are releasing ourselves from that situation and from the person. You're breaking the cords that bind, because whenever you have a hatred or a deep, you did this to me and I'll never be satisfied, I just can't let go of it. If you can't let go of it, that's exactly what you're doing. You're not letting go of it. You are keeping yourself bound to that person. And even if that person decides to go away, you will create in your hologram another person to fill their shoes. They might even look like them, which is really wild. This is why, like, when killers get wacky and they, kill several, I was thinking of, like, Ted Bundy people, those kind of people. They tend to go after the same type. It has nothing to do with the individuals that are in those bodies directly in the conscious mind. What they're doing is killing a symbol. They're going after a symbol. And we will all do this if we get trapped in the victim-victimizer drama. One of the easiest ways to begin to step back out of that drama is to recognize it is a drama that runs like a CD player that's being really run through the planetary grids, through the eye of the jackal implant that's affecting us at the 1.75 in our bodies that we are going to heal. Recognize that, decide to disengage, choose love, choose grace, and the third one, I would suggest starting with this one. Gratitude. Appreciating the all-oneness, knowing your aliveness. Gratitude. How many times, how often are we taught to wake up in the morning and go, if only. Oh, it's sunny today, but it's so hot. It's like, you see what you don't have. We are trained to see what we don't have instead of what we do have. You can have a person that finds a penny on the sidewalk. A person, if that person's dressed in a business suit and is getting in his Ferrari, won't even bother bending down to pick it up. But if that person just got off a boat and has no shoes and just got off a boat from a foreign country, first time ever in this place where the streets are supposed to be paved with gold, or at least pennies, that penny has a huge significance. Gratitude bursts forth from their heart. They appreciate that penny, where everybody else just throws it away. They don't even care because it's not even worth anything anymore, supposedly. If we begin to choose gratitude consciously, we will bring more things into our life to be grateful for. If we choose to look at things always, well, I could be having a good day today, but if only I didn't know. Well, as soon as I get this done, or as soon as I can get that house, or get that car, or get that spouse, or that mate, or that partner, or that trip to wherever, as soon as I can do that, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be at peace. You're putting your peace forever elsewhere. You're putting your, I'm at oneness now, elsewhere. You need to simply choose. Look at what I have. Could be worse is a good way to start that. Okay? Like, if you can't immediately be really grateful for, you look around and you look at, say, your old furniture, and you look at the fact that you have a pile of bills on the table and you have no idea how you're going to pay those this month, those kind of things. If you can't figure out how to really feel that feeling of joy and gratitude for having all this in your hologram, you can at least think about, it could be worse. What if I was in Afghanistan right now? What if I had been living under the Taliban, let's say, and I was a woman, and I had 6 children, but I wasn't allowed to go to work so I could feed them. And the Taliban killed my husband, so I was left in a shack with 6 children, and I watched them starve to death. Then look back at your pile of bills and your old furniture, and start to feel the shift. Because, that old dresser doesn't look quite so bad when you think about where your clothes might have been if you were living in a tent in Afghanistan. And also think about what might have been living in your clothes if you were living in a tent in Afghanistan. Every time you turn on the water, it should bring you great joy. Just, could be worse. There are people out there that are living in a very much larger lack space than we are here in in America and in Europe too. There's a lot of goodness that we have that we take for granted. The more we take it for granted, the more we are moving ourselves backward to becoming like the people who don't have it. And I don't like to say that the people who are experiencing pain right now and having lack, they have beliefs that they believe in that lack, first of all, and they live in countries that the government makes sure they believe in that lack. But they didn't get there by accident. These are karmic groups of people that incarnate into countries to learn certain lessons and to learn to get out of those lessons, to learn to move past those beliefs in lack. Now, they're being exploited there. A lot of times you'll find the people that are ones being exploited in this lifetime, take them back to Atlantis, they were the ones. They're actually exploiting the ones who are exploiting them now because they're trapped in the victim-victimizer cycle. We can begin to free ourselves from all those cycles when we begin to realize that these are the first 12 attitudes, things you can do with your mental body. Attitudes of mastery, love, grace, gratitude, reverent respect. Here's another one. There's a lie that's been spread around this country and I think around this world for a very long time. Well, I respect him. He didn't earn it. Excuse me. Is it living? Is it breathing? It earned it. Get this. Get this. You don't have to appreciate what somebody's doing. You don't have to like what somebody's doing. You might even be really ticked off at them because you just don't like the way they do things anymore, and they're not up to your standards. Judgment. You're not in grace. Okay? However, we have been programmed that respect is something we have to earn. We're programmed from the time we're kids very often that we have to earn our respect. We have to earn our freedom. We have to earn our love. Guess what planet that came from? Yes! The big Nibiru in the sky. Respect, reverent respect, is acknowledging and giving to the all-oneness. When you acknowledge the all-oneness, you know there is no other choice that is a sane choice but respect. Every being. If you want respect, if you think you're something great, why would you think that anything else is less than that too? If you're recognizing the all-oneness. You're exploring something together. All right? You might be exploring a positive polarity, they might be exploring a negative polarity, but you are still, if you are going to be in divine right alignment within yourself, and you are going to recognize your part in the all-oneness, God gives us the ability to create unconditionally. We are given unconditional love, unconditional power, really, and unconditional respect. That means our ideas are just as important to God as God's own. That means we are not treated as lesser than or looked upon as lesser than just because there might be a difference of opinion. The lesson of reverent respect is very important. That means you can look at a cockroach and instead of just smacking, killing it, you can say, okay, well, I don't think I'm ready to live in peaceful harmony with you right now unless you really want to stay like under the cupboard over there and don't come out when guests are here. And they usually won't listen, right? They usually don't want to hear it anyway. So you will think, though, before you start, when you interact with things, coming from a place of reverent respect, you begin to recognize the classic namaste. You recognize the God within all things. No matter what the illusion is of what that thing is, it is still made of the units of the consciousness of God. It is still made of the mana, the ire, and the mane. It is still nothing more or less than what you are. Respect is the only sane choice. When you go into saying, well, I'll treat you nice once, I can respect you. I used to respect you, but you let me down. You're not living up to my standards anymore, so I don't respect you anymore, so you're not worthy of my attention. Who's playing the game here? Is it the person who's saying, I'm not going to respect you, or is it the person on the other end of it that's saying, I wish you respected me, they're treating me like a victim. Here we go again, the victim-victimizer game. When you choose not to respect someone, you're playing a victimizer. And what you'll do is you'll create victims, and eventually the victims will get sick of being victimized. Then they'll victimize you, and you'll play a victim. And you'll be caught in the snare of victim-victimizer. Reverent respect is the greatest, let's say, it's like an antibiotic to take, against playing the victim-victimizer game. Because if you stay in respect for other beings, even when you're in an argument, you're having a disagreement of ideas, people, beings are more important than ideas. People, beings are more important than things. If we can remember these things and respect the people beingness that is in everything, and choose to find a way that's a win-win situation for all beings, you will find the best way, and you will find the best way even if someone won't cooperate with you, because you can cooperate, but that doesn't mean the other parties are going to cooperate. If they won't, you can honor their free will choices not to, but you can disengage. As long as you do it with respect, you're not going to bring a backlash back to you of disrespect. So it's one of the easiest ways to begin disengaging the victim-victimizer game, is no matter how bad somebody is to you, how much you know that you're right and they're wrong, that's okay. You can be right. And they may never agree with you that you're right, but that's okay. You're entitled to your opinion too. But respect them enough to say, you're entitled to yours too. I'm going to disengage lovingly, but do not treat them. There is no excuse to treat another being without respect. No excuse. That applies to even the most horrible mass murderers. How do you respect a mass murderer? You recognize them for what they are. They're beings that are made out of the consciousness of God that have some really real issues inside of themselves. They are in pain. They are twisted. You might not be able to help them in this lifetime. Sometimes, actually, the death penalty is the best thing you can do for them. It puts them out of their misery faster because they are miserable inside. For them, the people that do, really violent crimes and things like that, they are crying out. They are trying to destroy parts of themselves outside of themselves. They are killing parts of themselves when they kill people out here. They still deserve common, decent, just general, across-the-board respect. The same respect that you would give a flower for being a flower. If we can learn that, we will start to make strides out of judgment, which means we will make strides towards moving into grace, which means we will make strides towards moving into knowing what it means to feel unconditional love. There's a big difference between the need-feed love and the unconditional love. Big frequency difference. One contracts like this, the other expands infinitely. And the more we go into expansion, the more eternal we feel ourselves to be, and the less all the other dramas mean. We just don't react the same way anymore. Okay, how are we doing on time? Because I want to get to the one exercise. Okay, good. Oh, he wants us to leave already? Okay. Okay. Anyway, that means we'll pick up on the. I want to get to the magic words before we leave tonight. All right. Yeah. As is said that the janitor is here because they want to clean up for tomorrow for the other people that are coming in, and so we'll probably go till 10. We're going to do that anyway. We're going to go to 9 originally because we were, had the hour late. We have a half hour still to make up tomorrow, but. Okay. Okay, so we only have to move the back 3 rows of the chairs when we're doing our thing, when we're cleaning up. And they can leave now first. Okay. Okay. Alrighty, anyway. We'll get back to these tomorrow because there's a bit to talk about with each one of them. They each pose some challenges like engaged detachment, permitting the all-oneness to be without assigning critique, condemnation, this is very similar to grace, or value judgment, and understanding the isness of and validating the all-oneness. You're simply allowing it all to be. You're fully engaged, which means you're responsible, you can feel, you can let emotion come up and you can get excited, or you can feel, oh, that feels sad. I can feel sadness and feel the depth of the sadness, because sometimes there's a joy at the bottom of the depth of the sadness, because there's a piece of yourself there that just found out what sadness is. So you learn with engaged attachment to go into a whole different way of looking at things. The right versus wrong becomes something different. It becomes points of view, ways of looking at things that create different feelings. So we'll talk more about these tomorrow. We'll get into the attitudes more tomorrow once we're back in the building here. What I really want to get to, this is going to be a riot because I don't even know if I can pronounce these things yet all at once. We could. You don't want to do it tonight? Oh, okay, this one we will do tonight though. Okay, this...
Which is really relevant to what we're talking about.
Now, here we go. This is the beginning of learning the secret languages of the ancients. The Manu Technique 1, the magic words of co-creation, embodying the in-breath and the out-breath of God. What this is the sacred Suriya songs. Now the Suriyas are the movements. There are body movements and there are sound tones that go with the body movements that have to do with... Now think about old shows about wizards, okay? What do wizards do? They usually stand there in funny hats and usually have a wand. They go, abracadabra, right? They do stuff. They have these gestures, right? These characterizations are built on ancient knowledge that had to do with knowing how to project and pull and push and move energy. And it became embodied in the wizard that points his magic wand at things and makes things go zap or does all sorts of rituals. Yeah, there's movements that have been glorified actually through the occult arts that were based on, once upon a time, having a knowledge of Suriyas and the sound tones that went with them. You know, it's like Harry Potter revisited, but in the ancient days. You know, my daughter loves Harry Potter these days, and that's all I hear about is she wants to grow up to become a wizard, and I say, aim higher, become a guardian. You know, wizards are guardian wannabes. You know what I mean? Aim higher. But anyway, really, because like the Harry Potter series talks about witches and wizards. And it's giving children an idea. It's helping in one way and doing damage in another. It's giving children an idea that there are, metaphysics is a real thing, which it is, and it's the key to freedom. However, when it's taken into those spaces, it's not a key to freedom, it's key to another prison. It's key to starting playing with the bad boys, and that's, it doesn't work that way. But anyway, there are magic words. The magic words aren't magic. They work in manifestation because they are using combinations of the sound tones that go with the natural vibrational primal currents, the Manau and the Mane and the Ire. Now, this has to do with our breathing too, and at some point we're going to learn how to do these while breathing, and I don't know how yet to say a string of syllables on an inhale. I've tried this. It's like the lungs don't want to do this thing. When we speak out, right? We're sending it out. Do you ever try to speak while you're breathing in? Try it. Just to kind of go, it's a weird feeling. It's like totally backward, There was a time when we knew how to speak while breathing in. In the meantime, while we're trying to learn how to form the sound tones in a string together, we will use them both in the projection current. They will still trigger the backflow currents. But at some point, we would be able to, I have a feeling this might come through on the level 3, the freedom, the dance of freedom ones, where we start to get into more intricate ways of interacting with our bodies and certain types of breathing rhythms that do different things within the body. And as far as speeding up and slowing down time and all sorts of different stuff, I just have a feeling that's out there. But for now, we don't have to worry about learning how to sing these on an inhale. All right? When we sing them, it will set that pattern into activation for the next inhale breath we'll take. So we get to say them on the outhale and then, do the inhale breath. But this is the process of circulation of the primal life force currents. Now, we're going to get them circulating through the atoms of our bodies, those distortions, those little blockages that were on the other diagram. As we begin to use these sound strings that are built upon the sounds of the Akasha, the Ire, the Manau, and the Mane, and you use them in the right sequence, which is this sequence here. This is the beginning sequence of bringing back the mathematical coding of the natural sequences of the Manau body. So when your cells hear this sound tone, these sound tones, a string of sound tones, they begin to wake up new pieces, new parts of the Manau. They begin to reassemble things that were broken down before. They begin to disassemble blockages that don't belong there. The sound tones are the key. Now first we'll learn how to use them. First we've got to learn how to say them all together. At some point this would be something that would be worth memorizing. Like once you can say them and you can get a flow as to how to say them, eventually we will sing them, but right now it's just enough to get them all out in a breath. Because that's a use them as commands, as statements. All right, as if we would speak a sentence. Before we learn to sing the sentence, we'll speak the sentence. Okay? Now the first part of the first one we know, sound 1, this is called hailing the Akasha God force. Okay? This is where we are putting out a frequency to get the attention of the Manau, the Ire, and the Mane, those parts of the consciousness of God. When these sound frequencies, these vibrations emanate outward, there's a direct response. Oh, yes, you called? It's a way to get the attention of those consciousness fields. The parts of you that are in those consciousness fields. It's a way to connect your frequency here to the frequency of yourself that's stationed in the Manau and the Ire and the Mane. All right? The first part of it we have been doing already. It's Umahe Treinahe. What we're going to add at the end of that is Ekasha Umahe Treinahe Ekasha. So that one can be sung. We do it 3 times. I try it, okay? All at the same time. All right. 1, 2, 3. Umae Treinahe Ekasha Umae Treinahe Ekasha And try to feel that wave. There's a wave that comes with the Akasha. Let the cells feel it. We're going to start learning to do sound, where we're not just singing up here, but we're going to sing from our cells, where we're going to remember this is a vibration, this is a waveform. If you can't feel that waveform moving through your body, you need more energy behind it. That means you're not putting enough energy into it. Some people speak this way too because they're shy. So shy people tend to not let the energy go out too much, and they hold too much of it inside. Oh my train, you're going to feel that right probably in the back of your tongue is the only place in your whole body where the molecules are going to hear that song. All right? You need to sing and speak it away when you're doing the commands. You need to sing and speak it away that your little toe can hear you down there. And parts of yourself, like the hair clippings from the barber that are still in the garbage can at the barber, is it still connected to your morph field? They'll even hear you and start to dance, right? It's a waveform. It's not always about how loud the sound is. It's how resonant the sound is, how much it is moving through the cells. Sometimes it can be loud, sometimes it can be soft and still move. Okay? Now, when we learn to use these, the first thing is just learn how to speak the tongue. It's like learning a new language. And fortunately, it's not as hard as like if you never did Chinese before and you look at Chinese. Thank God that I don't have to go to China and live there, because I'd be totally dysfunctional. It'd take me 600 years to remember how to do that language. It's so beautiful. They're pictures. I would have to feel it. I would have to put my hands on them to be able to read them, because my brain just doesn't have the programming in it anymore. And I imagine it's like that coming back, to over here. For English, it's probably like that for people who weren't raised with English. With these, it's like these were sound tones that belonged to all of us before we learned any of those other languages. And it may seem like we're learning what is very foreign to us. It may seem like an alien language until we get used to saying it. Now, what these are, what you're seeing, is first we have the request. That's the hailing of the Akasha. You're saying, would you co-create with me? And it's done and it's not, hey, God, get down here. I want to make something happen. It's not like that. That's not the attitude. Wrong attitude. You will not get any response whatsoever if that's the attitude you have behind using this song. But if you're saying, I'm requesting the presence of the God force and source. Let us co-create this together. It is a reverent respect thing, right? Attitude is everything when you're using the tones, because if you use the wrong attitude, you're going to get back in your face basically what you're throwing out. If you use snotty attitude, you're going to get snotty attitude back. The mana will be your mirror for whatever you are creating. Now, the second one, song 2, is the in-breath. This is the intention embedding breath. Now, eventually, this is the one that we would learn how to inhale and speak at the same time. That's a really weird experience. I just said inhale and speak at the same time on the inhale breath. It's a very weird way to use the lungs. The whole body is just not used to doing this right now. Part of it's because of the reversals, where it used to be as easy to speak on the inhale as it was on the exhale, the exhale. But what the in-breath does is this is what takes, if you look at the hologram here, this is a hologram, right? An energy field. And pretend that you could actually go and make it go like a balloon. And you can suck it all in and make it disappear. This is what you're doing when you inhale. You're taking a piece of the hologram, and it's going through you and back through your template and back through that transduction sequence, back through the planet, back through, way back out to source. And then when you exhale, you are bringing energy back out into the hologram. This is your manifestation and demanifestation current. Now, what you're holding in your head and in your emotional body at the time you think a thought, every time you inhale, wherever your shadow, your mental body, and your emotional body, and your physical body are stationed, that imprint gets sent back with the inhale breath. Where does it go? It gets sent back into the mana fields, whatever level of them are closest to where you are. If you're blocked and you can't go past D3, you will be sending it into the D3 mana fields, or the ones surrounding the D3 mana fields. The mana fields have one job, to uphold the original intention that God created them a part of itself to be, which was to gift to you the power of free will creation, to create in the image of God itself. The mana gives you the gift. So whatever you decide to put in it, it's like a little It's like watching a seed grow, where you plant the seed and the plant pops out. It's like the soil that you plant the seed in. It's a consciousness, and it's agreeing to taking whatever pattern that you send it, and it will simply turn that into vibration and set the mechanics in motion. This is that element of the universe that will make it happen for you. Don't worry about how to make it happen. There's another thing that makes it happen. It's the part of you that's part of the man-now that makes the thing happen. And then once it is made to happen in vibration, it is the Mane current on the exhale that begins to bring it out into manifestation. When, in the old days, we didn't have the DNA problems, you could literally hold an intention, an image of what you wanted. You didn't even have to use external words in those days. You would simply run the vibrations. You would talk to yourself in your head telepathically when you'd inhale, and when you'd exhale, you would use the Suriyas very often to do it. And it would be. You could exhale a dove to fly out of your palm, and the dove would be. And it would go off and have the same power in its own way of creation. There were times when we had this power of snap the fingers, which we didn't really have to snap the fingers. It was more like if we wanted to make something move, you could point the finger. But if you're really good at it, you just imagine it moved. And it was. You didn't even have to point, because the consciousness itself would do it. When we begin to use these songs, this is what we're beginning to do, is reclaim our ability to fully bring back the natural function of that current of creation. Because right now it's all blocked and kinked, and there's circles and cycles within it that don't belong in it. It's like knots tied in a rope. If there's supposed to be a nice thin, nice circulatory system where you're moving around through the frequencies of, where you have the life force currents are supposed to, you inhale them, you take a thought back in, you exhale them, it comes out, and you get what you wanted, right? It doesn't work that way here because you have knots in that cord all the way around. There are different, those little dots that run the atom diagram. They serve as knots that literally take that current, twist it, make it do stuff you didn't intend, and it comes out, and you have no idea who thought that into manifestation, but it wasn't what I was aiming for. So when we begin to use these, we're setting back, we're taking the knots out of that thread. Now we're going to use this power, whether or not we ever work with these technologies. We use it every single day. Every breath we take, we are using this power. And right now, we're misusing the power without even knowing it. First of all, we're not taught what the power of our breath really is. It doesn't just keep our bodies alive, it keeps our hologram alive. There will be times we learn to do more sophisticated things with the breath that will allow us to jump time and things a little more quickly. Because you can use breaths and shifts in the breath to actually, once the body is cleared and it responds more fully to the primal forces, you can make it hop through certain breathing rhythms, where you literally breathe into being where you want to be, and pop, you're there. Imagine all the airfare you'd save on, I keep thinking, that'd be really nice. Anyway, the second one, this is the mouthful. These are the ones, I have to say this to myself slowly for a minute to see if I can get a rhythm on it before I can even attempt to try to help you with this. You might do better than I would, but the single tones are ire, sha, ra, di, ke, she, ta'a, mira, prana, chi. And there's a rhythm to it. It's something like ire, shara, dike, shara, ta'a, mire, prana, chi. There's a do-do-do-do-do-do at the end where you can feel the, there's a do-do-do-do-do, and the command into being, you can feel that in there somewhere. And I don't have quite the rhythm yet. So we're going to have to work with these together. We're not going to sound good with these tonight. I'm not going to anyway. Maybe you guys will sound good. I'm not going to, because I don't have there's a rhythm that it will come in. I think we might have a little rhythm. The rhythm might be a little different for every one of us, because our coding, every person has different coding mathematical templates, so they would work a little differently. But we can try that one again. Let's try these two, like back to back. So we'll go through this one, number 2, one more time, and then we'll come down to number 3 and attempt to do this one. Let's do them just slowly first, just each sound first, before we try to string them together into a statement. Okay? So we'll do number 2. What do you do with my pointer? There we go. Okay, we'll do this one. Ire, sha, ra, dike, sha, she, ta'a, mira, prana, chi. Let's move down to this one. Manu, ek, re, da, hu, he, ma'a, yana, treya, re. That's a re sound, actually. It sounds like re, yeah. Yeah. Okay, I want to try that one again. Manu, ek, re, da, hu, he, ma'a, yana, treya, re. Okay. Treya. Yeah, T-R-A-I-A, Treya. And you know, it's interesting. If you look at the Mira and the Treya, and you take part of the Ra off the Mira, you get my Treya. Sound familiar? Yes. Yes, the Lord Maitreya, or so it calls itself. Believe me, if some of these things were good guys, I'd be afraid to say some of the things I do. You know, like if Archangel Michael was really a good angel, well, I'd be terrified that, like, you know, I bring horrible things down upon my head by saying something not pleasant about someone. But you know, no, yeah. I'm trying to figure out what combinations of mess they're using with the names like Michael, and there's millions of people named Michael now. Because the Bible, that was the name in the Bible that was so important. This is...
Who is like God? Not like God.
I know, there's a trick to this. But anyway, the languages that we have right now are combinations of taking pieces of the 15 primary rays and combining them. Some of them are being combined in the natural ways that they normally would be in the original language. The original spoken language was Anahazi. That was the Elohai Elohim language. And all of the languages in this time matrix originally came from there, but there's been other reversed matrix languages plugged in. A reversed matrix language means we're taught an alphabet, and some of those are actually reversed symbols that have reversed tones that when you speak them, and you put words together with those letters and those tones, and you speak them just by the fact of talking, you can keep the reversal set in your atoms. This is what's been going on here. We have languages that are partially built on the natural languages that hold the regular divine blueprint into our body. And then we have parts of those languages that have been mixed with languages from Nibiru and from the Phantom Matrix that have put later letters in those languages that don't belong there, and they have taken out primary letters that did belong in the languages that would release the Mana, the Ire, and the Mane. So our languages right now, we're actually working at a deficit because we're having to translate the divine teachings through a language that has like a skip code reversal. Not everything's reversed. It might be every fourth letter, then every sixth, then every second, then every fourth, then every sixth, and then every second. So it's very hard, and every language here has it. There's not one language that has escaped this reversal mess. That started with the Tower of Babel stuff, where they really got into reversing all sorts of things. They scrambled the languages. Yes. Anything that's on planet at this point has gone through that. It had to do with what they did with the magnetic grids in 3,470 BC, when they did a partial shift. Like there was the final stage in their Nibiruan Merkaba reversal plan, where half of the planetary Merkaba was literally turned in reverse. That turned half of the natural language patterns and flow patterns here into reversals. So it has affected everything. And part of our challenge and part of our healing is bringing back the old languages that don't have those. Part of it's almost like catch-22. How do you do that? Because as soon as you try to translate it into this language, it shifts something. So we work with the symbols as well as the sounds. And what the sounds can't do, the symbols will, and vice versa. That's why we